And you're right, it's everyone's got that different mindset, and they just bring lots of different things to the table, and it's just incredible.
Yeah. Was it he said in Sesame Street, cooperation makes it happen?
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. Collaboration makes it happen. I think it was Sesame Street. Man, that's me diving deep into my past there. I became a 5-year-old for a couple of seconds there.
I'll take your word on it. Welcome everyone to Drumbeg Studio Podcast. Hello, how are we doing today? For what is the final show of this season 3. Oh, I can't believe how far we've come with these shows. But this season, just like the previous 2 seasons, have just really flown by, I've found. It's been fantastic to get these done. And before we get too emotional, let's just find out what is happening in this week's show. My final guest for this season 3 of our podcast show is Paisley-based musician Quinny. He's going to be giving us a couple of tunes throughout the show as well. We interviewed him way out in Australia. That's where he's based at the moment. We've also got a song by Chris Small at the very end as well. But this is RAAB with Bluebird.
It's a bluebird flying with no wings, new direction. Hear the voices sing to the outside, where it feels just right, singing the songs in the dead of the night. It's so alright. Where we gonna go? Up the hillside, or sinking down below in the middle, where it feels just right, singing the songs in the dead of the night. There's a bluebird flying with no wings, new direction. Hear the voices sing to the outside, where it feels just right, singing the songs in the dead of the night. It's a hideout for people to be free, to be grounded. Though dreaming eyes will see across the water, where the moon shines bright, singing the songs in the dead of the night. There's a bluebird flying with no wings, new direction. Hear the voices sing to the outside, where it feels just right, singing the songs in the dead of the
Well, there you go. That is the amazing voice of Edinburgh-based singer-songwriter RAAB here on Drumbeg Studio Podcast with her latest single, Bluebird. That track, Bluebird, was released this year on all your digital music platforms of today on the 15th of May. So go make a note of it and you can stream it in your own time. I just want to say, RAAB, many thanks for letting me play that song, sending it over. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I hope it's going down well with your fans as well. Want to wish you all the best with your future as well. Now, it is time to meet our final special guest of this 3rd podcast season. This week's special guest, all the way from Australia, down under, is Quinny. Quinny, welcome to the show.
Hello, good day. Is that what they say here? Hello.
How are you doing? How are you surviving down under? Are you alright?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's Melbourne. It's wet here, but it's all right.
Oh well. We've not got any rain here, but then you'll be used to the rain from living in Scotland, won't you?
Yeah. I thought I was getting away from that, but clearly not. You can't escape it when you're Scottish. Was it Always take the weather with you.
Yeah.
That's me.
I must mention that you've got your guitar with you, so we'll be getting a few tunes later on in the show, which will be nice.
No problem.
So, what was life like growing up, and what was the sort of childhood dreams that were flying around at that point, and was there any influence of the musical aspect at that time?
Growing up, I think I wanted to be an illustrator. I loved comic books. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
was very, very, very into like Marvel and DC and stuff. So I like making the Marvel films. Like those are perfect for me. I didn't make any of the Marvel films, but the Marvel films being made, it's been perfect for me. So I did want to do comic books. I remember that. I fancied myself as a bit of a cartoonist for a while. I also remember when I was a bit younger, I wanted to be one of those jackhammer guys on the street.
Yeah.
You know, the guys with the big things. So I wanted to be one of them, but I never got around to that somehow. I ended up not doing any manual labour in the way things worked out. I mean, there's still time. But I probably didn't get into music until I was into music. I remember I was talking to someone about this the other day, probably around about 1999, year 2000, whatever age I was then, 11. That like I'd been struggling for a while to find music that wasn't like really poppy music. Like I tried to get into like Bewitched and S Club 7 and all that kind of stuff, because that was the stuff that was made available to me throughout primary school. You know, that's the stuff that I was blasted with at the time. Steps, all of them, Spice Girls. And although now I can look back on those and think, those are great pop songs, at the time it didn't feel quite like what I was into. But then Limp Bizkit came out with Rollin', and that got really famous to the point that then I heard about it as a young guy. And that's when I started to discover like guitar music. And I think from then I sort of just totally absorbed myself in all aspects of guitar music. And it was around a good time, because although there was all the new metal stuff that I did really get into, there's also all of the indie stuff like the White Stripes and the Strokes, because I think not long after that, maybe the Strokes had like a number one or a number two. It was Last Night, one of those, I can't remember. So there was all of that. And also I discovered like pop punk, which I think was the thing that really drove me forward. Got really into pop punk, really into Blink and Sum 41 and Green Day, Offspring, those kind of bands. And so from there, that's when I really got into music. And I got a guitar when I was 12. I didn't play it for like a whole year, but then I went up to the Scout Hall, the local Scout Hall, because I was a member there, and they let us bring up our instruments. And this guy Andy McMillan brought up his drum kit, and a couple of my pals had guitars, and I'd learned the Smells Like Teen Spirit bass line, so I played that, and then it was playing with a drummer, because that's pretty much the same thing the whole way through. There's one little bit that changes, but on the bass it's kind of the same thing the whole way through. So then it was playing with a drummer and playing with other people that then I was like, right, here we go, this is what I want to do. I enjoyed the connection with people. And then about 6 months later, I think I had an electric guitar and I was in a band, and there was a few of my friends, one guy in particular that I'm still friends with most of those guys, but guy Bovine, Richard Gallatley, he's still making loads of music, and he was kind of a guy that kind of started showing me the ropes about how to play music with people. He had ideas about like guitar harmonies and guitar melodies, you know, well, you could do the chord and I'll play this bit. And I was blowing my mind at the time. I was like, how can you figure that out? How do you know that? But he was just really talented, even at the age of like 13 or whatever. So, yeah, and then I started writing songs, and I was in bands and all of that, but then I didn't play a gig till I was 16. My friend Graham McCusker, we had a band, the original Call. We wrote some songs, and again, he taught me a lot about harmony and structure, because he's classically trained, and he just knows loads of stuff about music. I learned a lot off of him. I still do. I mean, I've actually been bouncing song ideas off of him this week, because I've been recording a bit on Logic and stuff. So. Right, yeah. So yeah, I think that can answer your question. What my early aspirations were, and then where music kind of came into my life.
Right, Quinny, it's now time for some music today. So what first song are you going to play for us today?
I'm going to play a song called My Reasons. It's a song that I wrote a few years ago now. I was watching a lot of, do you know the show Dexter, about the serial killer?
Yeah.
Not Dexter's Lab, the wee ginger boy with the lab coat. Dexter, the serial killer one. I was thinking about his relationship with, is it Rita, is her name? His girlfriend in the first few series. So it's all kind of written from his perspective. And it's so if you put yourself in his shoes as you're listening to it, that might help you. It's not about me, and I'm sure it is about me somewhere and hidden in the song, but as I say, written from his perspective. So here you go. Hope you enjoy. Myself why I keep making exceptions. I bleed myself dry to escape a confession, and clearly I can't live by a code very seriously. It will unmake me. On your mind, you keep bringing that up. You're boring me blind. You keep bringing me bad luck, but still lately I know you want to make love to me daily, but you can't make me. It makes me feel monstrous, it makes me feel cruel, 'cause I bet there's something so much better that you may do if you just walk free, but it's not up to me. Advice from the harmless but hopeless. I'm rolling the dice with the savvy but soulless, and probably playing this life like Monopoly. And I'm ashamed I cheat. It's like nothing is sacred, nothing is safe. I'm behaving like a vampire, but I act like a saint, and it frustrates me, 'cause I can't go hungry or admit defeat.
That is the amazing voice of our special guest here on Drumbeg Studio Podcast, Quinny, with My Reasons. So Quinny, looking at your songwriting style, what genres and also known bands have you massively taken inspiration from? And perhaps has this changed as time has developed?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has changed as times went on, for sure. But I do find myself a lot of the time when I write stuff, I'm like, oh, that's definitely a Green Day bit, or that's definitely a Biffy Clyro bit, or, I mean, there's always, oh, that's a Beatles bit, but normally I'm like, that's too Beatlesy, because it's so distinctive, the Beatles, you know. I do find that there's just some artists that I just always go back to. Bright Eyes, Conor Oberst, there's always a bit of that in it, I think, thinking about especially lyrically, Elliott Smith. They're always kind of at the back of my mind, even, and they're people that I was into like a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably, I mean, at the moment, I suppose I go through different phases, but at the moment, because I've been writing stuff using Logic. I don't have a very good recording setup or anything here. I just use my iPhone headphones to record things. But I've been using Logic on my computer, doing a lot of stuff with electronic synths and drums and bass sounds and things like that. I've been definitely trying to listen to a lot more kind of dream pop kind of stuff and a lot more 80s electronica stuff, just trying to think about how I can, because if I'm limited to drum machines, then I might as well lean into it instead of trying to make things sound like real instruments. And a lot of their stuff does use electronic elements as well as great songwriting. So I'm thinking a lot about those. Was like today I was listening to some even the kind of 80s U2 stuff, just thinking about that, and because I love like Joshua Tree, that album. And who else was I listening to? I was listening to Echo and the Bunnymen. Just try to write some stuff like those guys, and because I'm using bad recording equipment, I tend to put a lot of reverb on stuff to hide it. So that again, that's me leaning into that, and their sound melds quite well with that. Obviously the Cure, things like that. Yeah, there's always there's just some people that I just always go back to. I definitely do find myself going back to Biffy, Blink, and the Beatles a lot. Somehow, yeah, they're just at the core, and I can't seem to shift it.
Thinking about, you were talking about there the fact that you've obviously limited with the time that you have of what you can use, the resources that you have, but are you very much a sort of traditional, sort of real instrument aspect? Has that been something that's really drilled into you, or this new influence that you're possibly taking up of using electronic stuff, is that something that you maybe see yourself into? Because I see myself very much as being, I want to use proper instruments. When it comes to drums, none of this machine stuff, I want to use proper instruments. Is that something that you take on as well?
Well, when I was younger, back in the day, I had a version of Fruity Loops that I used to use, and I loved making music on that. But the thing is, for me, making music is all about playing with folk. Yeah. So I prefer playing live instruments. I know people use backing track even though they're using live instruments, but I like the chemistry of people on stage. That's what I like doing. I'm not saying it necessarily sounds the best. I'm just saying that I prefer that experience of doing that. Not doing things to a click. I like the idea that that you can have magic moments where something goes faster, or something the band slow down but they're all together. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like using electronic elements for sure. I mean, especially at the moment, it's like a means to an end. Plus, when you're listening to music, it doesn't really make that much difference. Do you know what I mean? I know loads of folk that make music, and sometimes you wouldn't even know. The samples are so good now.
This face stays exactly the same. It's like you're all the art. I'm just the frame, and I'll keep losing confidence and color as you're auctioned off. There's not a thing left on this wall that's worth me hanging on. Not a single word I've written or a single line I've drawn. So let my masterpiece just fall to the floor. But I had this dream about this island where the horizons meet, and there was not a wall for miles except this line of trees. And I bought this little shack 'cause it was going cheap, and I hung everything I had on the door.
There you go. It's the second track by our special guest, Quinny, here on Drumbag Studio Podcast. That track was called The Island. As you were talking about earlier on, the musicians that you've been collaborating with, let's dive into that a wee bit more and talk about some of the other collaborations that you've been lucky enough to work with over the years.
Yeah, well, I enjoy putting a band together of different people, different musicians that I know. Like in 2018, I kind of brought some of my friends down to London where I was living at the time. Bovine that I mentioned before. My friend Gary, my childhood friend Gary from just along the road, he came down. He's a great guitar player. Mary Collins from the Vegan Leather, and Chris McCrory from Catholic Action. And we all spent a few days in a studio down there, Hermitage Works. We recorded some of my Christmas songs that I worked on, that I released the end of 2018. And then I released a music video the following year for one of the songs, Christmas Gear.
Yes.
Richard Wilson in it. So, but the band that I had in the recordings, they weren't able to come for the music video. So I just got some of my other friends to join in. My friend Ollie Kluczewski. He's a guy, keyboard player and songwriter. Released an album that I sang on. His name's Wilderness Green. That's what he performs under. So I worked on his album. My friend Luke Maher, he played keys in the video, and Tom Chapman, he played bass, and Ed Carmichael, friend of mine, he played drums in the video. And then that went really well. We had a lot of fun actually just jamming out on the day of the music video, even though it was all just getting dubbed, but we were just jamming anyway. And then so then Luke and Tom actually were both up for coming into the studio and recording with me last year for a song, It's Not Even Your Birthday, that I released, and then another song that I'll release later with a guy, Chris McConville, who was in a band called The Bishops, who were signed and did a lot of big touring stuff. I think they still got a lot of plays on Spotify, as far as I can tell. So yeah, I've had quite a few people that I've worked with. Yeah, I like getting people together. It was fun to work with to be produced by Chris McCrory from Catholic Action as well. I've known him for ages, and I love Catholic Action, so that was good. And then what I've really enjoyed in particular is getting to work with my friend Aisling O'Connor. Aisling, she performs under the name of just her first name, and she's released an EP recently that I perform on. I helped write one of the songs, and I also was on another standalone single of hers called Come Home. She works with a producer called Angus Wilson, who is brilliant. I mean, she and him, I just have they've been working together for ages, so they have like a good connection in the studio. They kind of speak sometimes in a different language, and it's been nice for me to kind of slip into that and just offer some outside ideas and stuff. They're lots of fun to work with, so I've enjoyed that. So yeah, I love working with people. Yeah, there's lots of different folk in there as well. I was just talking about, kind of just listed folk, but there's people who range from full-time musicians to some actors to some people that it's just a hobby.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about the production of all your music that you've been doing over the years, obviously you're the main composer for all the work that you do, and you have a good say in the instrumentation for each song that you get done. Do you and your fellow musicians help record the songs perhaps at your own places, or is it mainly done in the studio?
Yeah, I like to sort of decide what songs are going to be recorded, and then maybe have a rehearsal or a run through individually with people.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about it over the phone, have one rehearsal with everyone, and then just get in the studio and just try and do it. My favourite sessions that I've done, I've just spent like a day on each track, maybe not in that order, but
Mm-hmm.
So it's not day one is spent on this song, day two spent on this song. You obviously do all the drums first and then all the bass. But if it's 3 songs, spend 3 days on it, and just try and like rattle through it as quickly as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because so I like to just not dwell too much on it, and that's one thing that's great about getting other musicians involved. Because although I have an idea of what some parts will need to be like, there's not enough time really for me to like get them to learn what I've said perfectly. It's much better if they come up with something.
Yeah.
Obviously there'll be parts that I'm like, that needs to be in, because that's part of like a whole other thing that I'm trying to do. But more often than not, I'll just let them all come with their ideas, and then we'll play through all of those. And then you can, because you're recording, you can pick it apart as you record it and be like, maybe we'll just ditch that bit or whatever. So I like doing that. I like spending, try to keep things short and don't do too much contact time. Let people just jam it out, because sometimes they jam it out a bit and something great comes in. And like I say, you're recording it. We're not recording to tape. Record on the computers and stuff, so you can cheat. You know what I mean? So if there's one really good bass run, but it just doesn't get this right bit in it, you can go back and do that again.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be perfect. And sometimes you end up dropping stuff out. I remember when I was recording a couple of years ago, there was just this one bit that the guy, it was like my friend Bovine I was talking about, he was playing the drums, and he just kept forgetting to do it. But in the end, we got a really good take of the song. Like it was great, and I listened to it and I was like, we're not going to get a better take than that. That encompasses everything that I want in this song.
Mm-hmm.
This is just one little bit that I want you to accent. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? And you find that you end up letting go of things in favour of better feel instead of being so technically. So yeah, I like to kind of I suppose I'm using the phrase lean in quite a bit, but when people make mistakes, just kind of like incorporate that into it, because the sound of it is better. Like if I wanted it to sound absolutely perfect, bang on, I could just program it. But that's not why I'm doing it.
No, you're right. But it's been fantastic getting you on the show. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Oh, it's been great chatting to you, man. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. I've learned so much today. It's been a massive learning curve. A good laugh, and some interesting experiences that you've been talking about. Very much I can relate to a lot of them, being the musician myself. But it's been fantastic. All the best with your future, Quinny.
You too.
Cheers. See ya.
Take care of yourself. Bye.
Well, there you go. As ever, a big thank you to my special guest for this week, Paisley-based musician Quinny. That was fantastic getting the chance to chat with Quinny that day. I know he was way out in Australia, way in the other side of the world, but we managed to get a time that we could chat together, and the two of us, we were chatting for a good few hours that day. It was absolutely fantastic. I just want to wish you, Quinny, all the best with your future, and many thanks to RAAB for the music that we've had in the show as well. This final track by Chris Small is fantastic. I just want to say many thanks, listeners, for tuning in for these last 3 seasons. I can't believe how far we've come, and now we've come to the end of this 3rd season, which has been different. I know it's been different, but we've managed the challenge that has been out in the world. We've managed to overcome that challenge and bring you guys some incredible shows over these last few months. I am unsure as to what the future holds for the podcast show. Hopefully we will return with a 4th season very soon, back to the usual way of interviewing people in the same room. But we know that it can be done online, so that could be the future of the show as well. If you are a new listener or you haven't subscribed to our channel, do that now, because then YouTube will notify you when we are back with our new season. Now, I cannot finish on a much higher note than this final track by Chris Small. This is his latest single, Something in the Water. Until we next return, I want to wish you guys all the best. Stay safe in this fantastic, weird world that we live in, and all the best. See ya. Goodbye.
Making me remember just how it used to be. There's something in the way it moves along the sun-kissed shore that makes me fall in love again with all that I adore. There's something in the water running through my soul.
Drumbeg Studio Podcast with Michael Lumbey.